Hello and welcome to the Global Fashion Workshop channel. I remind you that we release a new video 3 times a week. Today we have Irina. I'm here and she's behind the camera. Hello everyone. Yes, hello everyone. We had a second lesson on the linen shirt. Everyone liked it very much and they left many comments. Thanks everyone. I think we should keep being in touch. What do they tell us, Irina? Mostly positive comments. They asked to show how to sew in the collar. Everyone liked the collar very much. I'll tell you honestly that I haven't read this comment. I just haven't seen it, but we prepared the collar in advance as well as the topic on how to sew in a collar and how to put in the garment and the collar together. So this question hit the bullseye. True, it's a perfect question, but before that, tell us how to prepare the garment for sewing in the collar. A placket is very simple. There's nothing simpler in the world. You apply a layer of interfacing and stitch it on both sides. That's it. It was prepared in advance, so it's perfect. Just perfect. We've already showed you a very simple method to make a linen placket. Next, we stitched the shoulder seam, and the side seam isn't stitched yet. That's because there will be slits and such. We've applied fusible interfacing to the shoulder seam, but it's not interlining. The line is smooth here after all, and the shoulder line becomes diagonal. We can't use interlining here. You can't use a stiff, unstretchable material to secure the seam. And if we cut it out and attach it here, it'll be just like the interlining. It's still stretchable a bit, and since we secured it, we have a beautiful seam that goes to the center of the sleeve. It looks great. Look. That's all we've prepared for the shirt for now. Irina, show us how you were making the collar and how you applied interfacing to it. Now look how the neck looks. Here, everything's ready for the collar to get attached. Look, now let's talk about the collar. We added 0.7 centimeters for allowances to the pattern that we had, and we stitched it, and the collar is ready. As you see, the bottom part of the collar is the same as it was. We just stitched this part and turned it inside out. Look how accurate the seams are. We applied fusible interfacing here. As you see, the edge is fine. Interfacing applied everywhere, both layers. The bottom of the collar isn't folded, as you see, and the top of it is folded by 7 millimeters. And not only that, we didn't just fold, but we did it in advance before we stitched here. That's because if we stitched and tried folding it after that, it just wouldn't fit here. We actually didn't fold it inside. We just folded it until where it connected to the other part of the collar. Folded it, steam pressed, and stitched by 1 millimeter. Here, 1 millimeter away from the fold is the seam. Here we folded by 0.7 centimeters and trimmed it a bit. It's just 5 millimeters. So, you need to keep in mind that the top part of the collar gets folded and steam pressed, not when everything is stitched already, but before that in advance. And when we have this fold, then we can stitch the collar. After that, we stitched it, turned it inside out, and it's ready to be attached now. And Czeslava told me that when she starts sewing it by hand, she stitched along this thread. Can you imagine all the nuances to that? I was very surprised. I don't do it like that. Imagine this. I share with you someone's craft secrets. Before we start working with it, we need to put in a mark. Irina, please explain. Slightly, like this, with your marker. Do not get confused later. You can make mistakes during stitching. We shouldn't do that. We need it to be perfect. The mark goes along the fold, exactly along the fold. See how it looks? There are many good comments about the blouse and how it fits. It fits perfectly. This is my favorite model. Of course, there's no discussion. We've made sure once again that this model is great. Nothing to doubt about it. Right. I get surprised when I see a really suspicious model online. There's a lot of this now. I don't know. I don't see anyone saying anything bad about this model. Ella says, it fits perfectly. The shoulders are just right. The shirt came out well. I too should find my balance, and will do that. That's right. That's how it should be. All should be found. Now the bottom part of the collar needs to be attached to the product by the right side where the mark is, the center of the collar to the center back. I'll put a couple of pins here. To be honest with you, I wouldn't baste it myself, but certain knowledgeable people here say we should do it. That's right, Irina. You can't escape basting here. When you attach this fold to the edge of the button stand, turn it with your fingers and make sure that the line is straight. The smallest fault here will lead to one being over the other, either the collar or the button stand. Here, where the seam is, we need it to be perfectly accurate. You put them together, and the collar and the button stand should create a straight, even line. While Irina pins it, I'll read a comment from Elena. Irina Mikhailovna, the new format is great, but what's most important is that you're comfortable. Can you tell? I'm very comfortable, and I like it. You can't do everything simultaneously. Read, answer, sew, baste, cut, think. It's impossible. That's why we make courses. One person is sewing and the other is doing the talking, and the person showing, explaining, is me. But that's impossible to do. Imagine that you have to sew and answer questions and do other things all at once. I can't imagine that being possible. I want to tell you how this format was created. That's how it happened. We didn't just come up with it. It came to us by itself. It happened when I was sitting here making a shirt, basting and cutting and so on, and Ira would always say something from behind the camera, and then we realized that we can use that. Well, I didn't just say anything off topic. That's true. She's always on point. So we pinned half the collar to the shirt. Now I'll pin the other half off camera. I basted the bottom part to the shirt. But not this part. Look how it should be done. It is actually easy to do if you're being precise. It's very easy. When you're precise from the very start, it'll be accurate naturally. We need to make sure the edges of the collar and the edge of the button stand create a line. It's very important. I'm basting already. This I'll put away. It's great that I have marks here. Irina, many comments say that they really liked Q&A because this way it's easier to understand. For example, Lena says, I liked this format very much. Unexpected questions and answers that add to our understanding of the model. Thank you. And there's lots of comments like this. Elena says, thank you very much. I just thought of making a linen shirt, and it's like you answered me. This video is just in time. I'm very thankful. I basted carefully. I'm basting along this fold. Well, I also have marks there. There's nothing hard there. It takes just a couple of minutes. Open it to make sure it's a straight line, and then we start basting. It's easy, really. Just stitch along the basting where it's marked and basted. No problems there. It's all marked. While I'm getting ready to stitch, Ira, is there anything else? There are great comments, but there are no questions. Look, I want you to see this. Right. Here, we need to pay attention to where the seam will be. It'll be where the basting is. I don't like to stitch where the basting is, but there's no other option. There are different opinions on this model. Natasha says my last experience with a model like this was not great, but I'll try yours, a sample first. Good. Samples are a good idea. There's a comment about how high we can lift our hands comfortably in this, if there will be any problems with this model. I'll tell you now, it's an important moment, the beginning of the seam. I'll explain now. Look what it depends on. If you want to lift your hands, then make the sleeves here wider. If you make it too tight here, you'll never be able to lift your arms. And if you make it wide here, then you'll be able to do it. Though I don't really understand why you need to lift your arms. Maybe for public transport. Maybe for public transport. I agree with that. Pay attention, please. Everyone likes it so much when Irina Mikhailovna is sewing. That's true, but I myself like sewing a lot, honestly. Whatever mood Irina is in, a good mood. It'll always be good. Some people might think that I try to look better. It's actually the other way around. When someone says, stand like this, pose like this, I say that I don't want that. I'm here not to look pretty. But they all say it's too late now. Now I need to do it. That's right, you need to look good. I like sewing, but looking good, I like it too, but not that much. I prefer to dress up for myself. Look, I'll stitch a bit, and then I'll show you the end of the seam. How precise you need to be here. You see it here, right? It should be a perfect match of these edges, the edge of the collar and the edge of the button stand. An interesting comment from Leah. I changed my opinion not only about this model, but about sewing that I love dearly. Look, yes, it's perfectly even here. It's a perfect straight line. The collar matches the button stand perfectly. Now I'll remove all the basting threads and then I'll show you how to see it here by hand. Let's look at what we have once more. What I need to do now is remove the basting. Press the seam under the collar slightly so that we cover it with the collar and then stitch it. Imagine how amazing it'll be. Unbelievable. Look, we've removed the basting, pressed the seam under the collar, and now we need to cover it with the collar, and then we'll stitch it by hand. Of course, I won't stitch the whole collar, just the beginning, a small part. You'll see the finished collar when we upload the video review. Then you'll certainly understand how it's done. What else do we have, Irina? Irina, they ask if it doesn't disturb you too much to answer questions while sewing. If I'm sewing, nothing can disturb me, nothing at all. Whatever happens, I continue to work just like I did. Yes, that's true. Yes. First of all, when I speak or design, I don't really need to think about it. I just say what's already stored in my mind. Nothing to come up and think. Everything is already thought of since who knows when. Thank you for supporting this format. It was very interesting to read your comments. Natalia says, it's a great video. I liked it. Here's what she also says. This collar shouldn't have been forgotten. How did you come back to this collar? Well, I've always loved it. Now look, you make the first stitch a bit further away so that the knot is somewhere under the collar. Put the needle just where the edge is. And you can't make the first stitch here because there'll be a knot from the end of the thread, and that is a no-no. Now look, you have to be very careful at the start. So that's why we carefully put it in using the needle and capture the garment from under it. The stitches should be as small as possible, especially here. They shouldn't even be seen. You also shouldn't just move to the next stitch without making sure it's secure. The stitches should hold. Or you move on and your button stand doesn't match anymore. Well, that's what happens. Teeny tiny stitches to capture the collar with the needle from under it. Just a single thread. Hold it. We don't need to look for where to stitch it to. Everything was prepared in advance. What am I talking about? It's about precision. Precision always leads to a good result. I won't bother you, Irina. It's a very important moment. You see how it is. The needle captures the garment, the shirt, and you capture the collar from under it. And the stitches should be the smallest you can do. If you can't, do something about it. Practice. Imagine this. You're sitting somewhere and your collar is showing, and this seam, this inside seam is obviously visible, and here's your face. And there's a mess of threads, poor cuts, and raw edges. I've seen this before. I don't think my students will present themselves like this. No. No, no. Our students make clean and elegant clothes. Everything should be perfect. There should be nothing here. When I see linen fabric being treated poorly, you know, it makes me feel offended on behalf of the fabric. For some reason, there's that popular opinion about linen fabric, that you can treat it poorly or whatever. Well, girls, that's not true. To this and the likes of it, we say no. Linen should be respected more than any other material because it's such a great fabric for our health, and we feel wonderful in it. I think I want to make a lesson on linen fabric. That's a great idea. Comment what you think about a lesson on linen. The linen is very hygroscopic fabric. It has to be respected above all other fabrics, and you should make beautiful, high-quality products from it. Look how much effort I put into this work. And here's also a seam made using a machine, right? But I won't follow what the girl said to the letter and capture just a single thread. I capture the fabric in the end. It's la couture. A couple more stitches and the rest will be done off camera. You just stitch it the same way until the end. The finished collar will be shown in the review video. Do I read your comments? From Olga. Thanks for your help. Without you, I wouldn't be able to think of an easy shirt to make. By the way, this shirt fits a big chest as well. You know that we should make a lesson about... We need to make a lesson on a one-piece sleeve. Answer some questions people leave in the comments all the time. They ask how to make a one-piece sleeve with a dart. A dart. What the bust dart is for. It's so that the garment fits here. That's the sole goal of making a bust dart. So that it is this part that fits us. How can you fit it if you make a one-piece sleeve? People surprise me. They can't just use our 10 measurement method or Muller's method or any other method or just a loose sleeve. No, they decide to get stuck researching so long that one could wear 10 things and have them worn out, and these people would still keep thinking, how do I do that? You can't. You don't need to do that. You don't need to even think about that. This dart is meant to make clothes fit here. How will it fit if the sleeve is a one piece? I hope I answered your question. Well, I think we must make a lesson on linen fabric so people would respect it more. There's a comment asking to talk about this type of sleeve. Fine with me, because the fall is soon. We'll do some cardigans. Do you know how beautiful cardigans look? Very, very cool. And do you know how fast you can make one? Right, it's very important for Ira, of course. Well, if you don't want to be left with no clothes, you need to make it fast. Fast doesn't mean poorly. It means you need to know how it's done. So comment what you think about it. What kind of content, what kind of lesson would you like us to do? A lesson about materials has been requested for a long time. Well, yes, I want to make a lesson about linen because I've been to a museum and there were textiles from 9 BC and 5 BC, and the research has shown it was linen, and I was stunned by it. And that's how the collar will look. We'll press it here a bit. The button stand will be wonderful. I won't be sewing it anymore because others will make it instead of me. What's important is that I showed you how to do it. If you use the information I shared with you today, you will have perfect collars. Today, I showed you how to do it properly, with ease and precision. Ira, sweetie, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for more than 600 comments. We'll be waiting for your comments after that too. The next video will be done the same way. We'll be answering your questions while filming again, because it's the double amount of information. You need to cut, answer, think, read the comments. It's impossible. If it wasn't for Ira reading the comments, I wouldn't have been able to answer your questions, and we're very happy. Actually, we always work together. It's just that you never hear from me. I'm sure our Global Fashion Workshop will continue to be in touch with you. With the seasons ahead of us, we'll make a lot of interesting clothes. My favorite seasons are coming. After all, I love outerwear the most. Same for me. I love outerwear a great deal. That's love. There's nothing you can do about it. So our favorite theme is coming soon, and that's where the fun begins. We'll make so many cool things. Leave comments about what you would like to see. What models should we look for? Well, for now we'll just work on this sleeve. We'll also make a dress. We can make a dress with buttons. Just make it 50 centimeters longer, and that's the dress. Add 2 pockets, put on a belt, and you'll get a magnificent urban dress. That's amazing. This method will also work for making a shirt dress. If you learn how to do such button stands, you'll never have a problem. Well, what else can I say? It's time to say goodbye. We've shown you today how to sew a collar, how to prepare it, and how to attach it. I hope it was well explained. Be different and be positive, because it's even more important than being different. You can be different without being positive. That's all the differences that are for nothing. Let's be different and positive. Let's be creative, and let's look for things that will bring us joy in this life. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you for watching. All the best from Irina Paukshte, Irina, our cameraman, and the rest of our team. Goodbye.